All right, everyone, thanks for joining us today. We are going to be taking a look at expansion systems orientation. Now, I do need to start by prefacing this and saying if you have the opportunity to take the full course, this is a 8 to 10 hour course, usually done over 2 days. And so we're going to deep dive on this in an hour. We're not going to get a ton of time to cover every single section of this. And even when we traditionally do ESO Lite, it is normally about a 3-hour course as well. So know that we're just covering the basics today, getting an idea for what expansion is, why Gary recommends it for mega agents and mega teams. And should you have any further questions, feel free to reach out. And then we're hoping to get the full version of this. It'll be a day and a half on the regional calendar before the end of the summer. So let's jump into it. In the sake of time, we will be done promptly today. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat box or into the Q&A section of your webinar. And as I mentioned, we'll be happy to go through any of that for you. So what is expansion systems orientation? What is expansion and how does the evolution of that work? And so if we talk about expansion, there's 3 questions that really come to mind, or 3 statements that really come to mind. So the first one was, why just be a millionaire real estate agent one time? The way the book was written, the MREA, Gary gave us the roadmap on how to become millionaire real estate agents. And then he said, well, if you systematize it and you get really good at what you're doing, why not afford that opportunity to others? And that's where he kind of came in and said, you know, expansion is going to be the next evolution in real estate, because as a business owner, real estate was sort of one of those only businesses that you couldn't take across the country, or you couldn't take across your province or your state. And it started to feel really limited to the geographical location in which you were. And then Gary realized, well, what if we took the ceiling off of that and allowed mega teams in order to go wherever they can? So it ends up being one of the fastest ways to grow your business once you have dominated your local area. And then, like the last statement there says, it's the next evolution for mega agents. We see it all the time. You know, you hit this sort of ceiling, you've taken over your area, you're doing all the business that you can do there, and you start asking yourself that question on what's next, where do I go next? And so expansion might be that option for you on where you want to go next. It's also how Gary built Keller Williams. So when we look at the case study of the expansion of KW, we know that Keller Williams was started in Austin, Texas. And if you see how he sort of got started, he did his first wave between 1983 and 1990. And that was his first 5 market centers once he had his original market center built and operating the way he wanted it to. Now, Gary's rule, and the way that you should always think of expansion when you're getting started, is to expand locally. So for our team, when we were looking at it, our first expansion location was actually in Hamilton. And the reason for that was it was a nice, easy drive. It was an hour, just under an hour, and I could still be home every single day. And Gary talks about that when he built Keller Williams, in that he was able to do the same thing. So he went to San Antonio first, because that was the shortest distance for him to travel. And then he leaked into Houston. Now you'll see as he went through it, his second wave was still in San Antonio, Austin, and in Houston. And then his third wave is where he started looking at places like Dallas. Now, all of that was still within a driving distance for him. And so as he expanded over the almost first decade as he was building Keller Williams, he still expanded within a region that he could still drive home and be with his son every night. So that's how expansion started. It's also how a lot of other companies have started. If you look at what's called the ink block model, Walmart's one of those companies that favors that model as well, where there's always an overlap in territory between where one Walmart is and the next Walmart is. And so it's kind of the same thing that you're doing with your business, is you're going to have natural areas that you send a lot of referrals to. That's one way that you can look at expanding. So let's hypothetically say you're in the Kitchener-Waterloo region and you send a lot of business over to Woodstock or London. You might want to look at those as potential expansion locations for yourself when building out your business. Now, the second piece of that is expanding with talent. And the third piece of that is expanding strategically. So when we talk about that in-spot model, we're talking about going where that opportunity is, spreading out, and then always backfilling in. Part of the reason that you want to make sure you do this way is it gives you a sense to maintain some control in your business, and your advertisements can be word of mouth, as opposed to, some people that may be heavy in one area because they're on every billboard, they wouldn't really be able to expand to another area because nobody would really know them. So you're going to keep on keeping on and spread that influence into each spot in which you take your business. And so the only way to do that is to follow the models of the local destinations where you're going to be. And the advantages of that are going to be the predictability of the business, the ability to react quickly. Like I said, if you're able to drive to any of these locations within the same time frame, it's going to make it easy for you to react to problems when they show up. When you look at your lead generation efforts, it's also going to get increased because you're going to be overlaying your lead generation in the areas that you are, and it'll make it more powerful for you to grow a lot faster. Now, why do you really want to look at expansion? The first one is obviously increasing your profits. The second is maybe your vision for your business is large. And then your third is it's going to give you an opportunity to deepen your bench. And we know that if you go to level 7 in the MREA, there's a section where you're an owner in the business and you've now put a CEO in place. And sometimes you just aren't able to do that unless you expand the vision of your business. So when we think about increasing profits, how do other businesses increase profits? A lot of times that's opening a new location. And so that becomes one of the income advantages of expansion and moving that forward for you. Now, the second, when we talk about expanding the vision of your business, you'll see how Gary has kind of laid out the growth and the pipeline. Now, we've seen this hockey stick curve time and time again. This isn't new, but Gary has applied it to our businesses where he says, okay, stage 1 is going to be pre-launch, 1 to 2 years. Stage 2 is going to be launch. That's going to be your first expansion team. Stage 3 is going to be growth, where you're going to be 2 to 4 expansion teams. Then you're going to move into achievement, which is 5 to 9 teams. And then if you can get 10 or plus teams, then you start to build what's called an empire. And so even at the look and feel of our organization, we spent 2 years, a year and a half or so in that pre-launch phase. I must have taken the full ESO course at least 10 times in that section, because I wanted to create the systems and structure in the back end to ensure that when we did finally launch, we were ready to do that, we were able to. As I mentioned, our first launch happened in Hamilton, and that happened in the tail end of 2018 going into 2019. And then in 2020, so that was that 1 year gap. And then in the last 2 to 3 years, we've been able to partner with 3 to 4 more businesses in the growth phase. Now we're starting to step into that achievement phase. And so we know that over the next 2 to 5 years, our goals are going to be to get into that 10 plus expansion. Now, the only reason I share that with you is to share that the model works and the vision works. And Gary has built us a roadmap that makes this really easy. So I keep mentioning taking the full expansion course so that you fully understand it before you go ahead and expand your business. Now, again, it's going to continue to attract more and more high quality talent to your vision. Gary always talks about, the bigger your world gets, the bigger people can fit in it. And that's really a talent conversation for who you can bring into your world. Then it's going to also deepen your bench. Now, a lot of teams, a lot of us as business owners spend a lot of time in the I do it and the we do it. And you'll notice that gives you a job. Now, when you start to get into the they do it, you're now a business owner. And then when they own it, you become an empire builder. Now, what that means is you are going to have access to a ton of talent within your organization, which then you can start to grow from within instead of growing external through every step of this. Now, this is the Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, if you haven't seen it before, but we talk about developing and deepening that bench. So on the left side of the column is where we all start, either as an employee, the E stands for employee, the SE stands for self-employed, and most of us tend to stay over there. What we're trying to do with expansion is move out of that self-employed section and either become a business owner or an eventual investor in your own company. And that is the model for how Gary built all the market centers, as well as how Keller Williams was built as well. The other thing it's going to allow you to do as you continue to build out the organization is take less jobs back. Now, if you think of a team and a small team and someone critical leaves, you tend to get all those jobs back to yourself. The other thing it's going to help you to do is to grow from within by leveraging that bench, like I mentioned. So rather than looking outside of your world for talent, you can grow within your world as people continue to grow with you and your world continues to get bigger. The other thing is you can learn from history. So learn from those that have gone before you and avoid the signs of organizational decline. And so what you'll notice is you start to study some of the bigger expansion teams, you'll start to see that a lot of them are all in the same locations with each other. It's a competitive space, yes, but collaboration gets us a lot further than competition. And so we see that these organizations will look and say, okay, well, hey, this team is in Hamilton, they're having great success. Maybe we should be looking at Hamilton and having great success, or Niagara Falls or Oshawa or Ottawa, or wherever that is, because there's a success pattern there for the people that have gone there. In the past, I'll tell you, one of the ones we always noticed is that everyone had a hard time winning somewhere like Ottawa, as an example. And I don't know if that's a geographical distance, just how things are done out there, but we've seen several expansionists over the years go into that space and not be able to pull it off. So there is a metric there that you can talk to those individuals and figure out what was so hard about going there. And again, learning from history so you don't make the same mistakes as everybody else. So now let's talk about what that model looks like. We're going to cover the expansion terminology, the model itself, naming your venture, and then talking about a powerful, efficient hub. Number 4 here is really critical to this. So expansion occurs when an expansion owner carefully recruits a network referral partner or agent to run a new expansion business in a new market center. Now, this expansion business is powered by and supported by the expansion hub and typically overseen by the expansion director. These were those 5 stages we talked about on the hockey stick curve. But this is what it looks like in a baseline single location. So this is how you're going to start. It's going to be really hard to expand if you don't have some of these things in place. Now, you may be able to get away with not having a showing assistant. Maybe you don't have an inside salesperson, but these are questions you're going to ask yourself on the value that you're going to provide to the partners that are with you. So if we go through the 7 levels, this is level 1. It starts as just you building your business. You're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the stuff. Then level 2, it's you and an admin. Level 3, it's you, an admin, and a transaction coordinator. Now, I made this mistake as well, where I went admin to agents. I didn't follow the model, I broke it, and I had a lot of mistakes in that when we were going through it. This is the correct way to do it. This is going to give you the ultimate leverage as the business owner, is if you follow the model. Now, then you're going to make a decision at level 4. So part 1 is you can bring in a lead manager, someone to help you manage that database and generate the leads out of it. And you might just start by bringing on a showing assistant so that you can start to leverage your time back and have somebody else showing you the properties. Now, at this stage of it, you could be doing anywhere from 50 to 70 transactions, depending on your efficiency on what you want to look at. But you really don't want to start bringing agents in unless you have enough leads to service and unless you have an overflow of leads that you yourself can't manage. The level 4 part 2 looks a little bit different. You'll see that we brought in a bar agent, we brought in a couple of showing assistants, and we split the role of the lead manager, OSA, ISA, and we've added that in as well. You'll also notice that we've brought in a listing manager on the admin team, because you should be taking so many listings that you need all these people to help you with your business. Then you get into level 5, and you'll notice that again, there's a little bit of change here where you went from just an admin and 1 OSA, ISA to now you've added, that person is now the director of your operations organization, and you've now brought in an ISA into the business to help you as well. This is now going to give you the foundational pieces to start thinking about things like expansion. You get into level 5, there's your listing agent. So now you start to act more as a CEO and less transactional. And then you get into level 6, and this is where expansion starts to happen. So now you've created a director of lead generation, which is managing your lead flow, director of operations who are managing your administrative team, and then you've got a sales director in place that is going to manage your business at the local level. And you'll see there we've added the first spoke to the wheel of the network referral agent, and that now gives you the opportunity to start your expansion. So if I were to timeline this again for you, this would have been us in 2018, and then in 2019, tail end of 2018, we stepped in with this network referral agent that we started doing business with. Then as we continue into level 6, part 2, you'll notice that you've now continued to grow. You now need more on the OSA side, which is an outbound sales agent. So they're going to help you generate some more leads. And then you've brought in a director of expansion as you now have a full expansion business up and running. So notice the big change between level 6, part 1 and part 2 is it starts with a referral agent. So someone that you're going to be sending some business to, you're going to be helping them grow their business. And then when they're fully launched, they're going to be an expansion business within your business. And then as you get into level 7, you can now look at things like bringing in a CEO, and then your director of expansion is now helping you grow multiple expansion business as you move forward. So this was kind of what we did and what we followed. We're not quite at level 7. We're in level 6 with a hybrid of level 7, where we've got multiple expansion organizations that we are partnered with. And our operations and our team looks very, very, very similar to this. Again, I try not to change models that Gary Keller gives us because there's a reason that they work. There's a reason that it's called a model, is because it works. And so this gives you the roadmap on how to build your empire as well. Now, as you're starting to go through pre-launch, obviously, like I mentioned, you've got to be at that level 5 position before you get there. So this is what your business should look like. And you're going to have your expansion hub, which is your administrative division, your lead generation division, and then your expansion support division. And as you continue to move forward, you'll notice that you're very active in these businesses in the pre-launch phase of things. And then this is kind of what the process looks like. So you're going to establish your network. There is some stuff you have to do with KW to move forward on this. And then you're going to launch a new location, signing an agreement with the host market center as an operating agreement on how the business is going to work. And then you're going to recruit that referral agent to the host market center. Now, for anyone that's in leadership on the call with KW, one of the reasons that expansion works is it's a partnership between the market center and the expansion business, where you'll notice that we're not trying to take away from the business. In fact, we're trying to enhance the market centers that we're a part of, and so that we can continue to add additional support and additional training in creating company dollar and helping those market centers grow as well. Then you'll see in launch, now you've got your expansion director and that network referral agent. And then you start to get into growth mode, where now you've got multiple referral agents in your business. And then achievement, we get into that 6 to 9 phase of network referral agents. And then there's your empire when you start to look at regional expansion directors. Now, we hear a lot that this doesn't work. And I'll tell you, for the first time in history, it happened last year. KW created 4 billionaires within the company, and those were all done through expansion organizations. So Place Inc., being one of the largest expansion organizations in the world, was built on this foundational piece. They're now in over 75 locations across North America. They're here in Canada as well in 2 locations. And so they're living and breathing this entire system and this entire model. Now, naming your venture is important. I will say to you, if you're going to be doing this in Canada, it's part of it is the branding and the name of the venture. You're going to have to check with RICO to make sure that you are compliant for all of it. And then obviously you've got that ease of use for network referral agents, but also look at your legal ramifications. There have been people in the past that have gone down this path, and they have had some ventures that didn't work out, and how they name things and how they set up their businesses, and they were fined for doing it in certain ways. So if you're here, if you're watching from Ontario, one of those things to note is RICO does not allow you to use a singular team name in multiple locations. So for those of you that have heard about Icon, that's why most of our teams say they're powered by Icon, and each team has its own individual branding. That was through exploration with RICO, but it was also through a previous expansion organization going down the path, not following those rules, and then getting their hands slapped by RICO. So that's just a simple example. As you go through the naming process, make sure that you understand the branding, make sure that you understand how your partners are going to be able to use that branding, and any legal ramifications that you may have by naming your venture. Second part is you want to make sure that you have a powerful and efficient hub. This is probably the most important part of this whole thing. Do not expand if you're not ready administratively. or in lead generation, or if you don't have people that are here to support your expansion agents. Just a star that I'm going to put there. Please write that down. Spend a lot of time getting your administrative division working perfectly, and then get really good at learning how to generate leads in any area that you go to before you go there, or it will fail. And in fact, the majority of expansion companies don't truly get off the ground. And this is the number one reason why, is the administrative division and the lead generation division aren't succinct. Now, as we go into laying that foundation, this is what the business snapshot looks like. I had the opportunity to take this course with Gary once upon a time, but this is exactly what he created and went through when he built the Keller Williams empire. So you'll see step one is researching that opportunity. Step two is creating that value proposition. So what's that going to be? Developing your unique culture, because it's going to be different for everybody else. And then what's that vision map going to look like? Now, if you're building a team or have a team, steps 1 through 5, actually pretty well all of these, you could start now at looking at your current organization, and you may never even expand, but you're going to have a really good business just by looking at this business snapshot. Number 5, you're building that pro forma and a business plan. At number 6, an organization chart. You're going to identify those 5 key empire builders, making that first key hire, having a 30, 60, 90 program in place for when people join your world, running a training and coaching business, researching regularly, and then continuing to build out that world. Now, there's a few key pieces of this that we're going to touch on. Like I mentioned, this isn't a full ESO course, so we're just going to touch on a couple of those key pieces that I think are important. The first one of those for me is number 8, identifying your key empire builders. Now, if you've ever taken QL, Jeff and I just did QL quite recently. We'll be doing it again. This is a very big part of QL, where you need to identify your 5 key empire builders. So who are those people that are going to come into your world and help you build this organization? You cannot do it alone. It's be very, very difficult. And so you need people here that are going to be there to help you. Now, if we were to go back to the org chart, they're pretty well laid out for you. So your director of lead generation, your director of expansion, your director of operations, your sales director are probably 4 of those 5 people that you're going to need out of the gate in order to build that empire. Now, what was cool about when I was able to take this course with Gary was he held it as an empire builder course, and it wasn't just real estate. And what he mentioned is that this model can work for any business that you're trying to do, no matter where it is. So whether that's a different franchise, whether that's in real estate or anywhere else, the same 13 opportunities are there for you to creating and growing your business. And in that room of 200 people, there were only 3 realtors, and the other 197 people were from other businesses, everything from tech to food trucks to everything else there. So this does work. When you do take the full version of this, be sure to take a lot of notes as well. Now, in that, you'll see that in the expansion world, they've kind of given us who those empire builders should be. So your network referral agent, your director of operations, your expansion director, your lead gen director, and your sales director are probably going to be the first 5 key hires that you make if you choose to go down this path. Now, as we continue forward, the second piece that Gary mentions is running a training and coaching business within your training and coaching business. So you're going to keep a company's training calendar. You're always going to start with the market center training calendar. Then you're going to have your own events, and then you're going to create your own training by leveraging Keller Williams materials as you continue to build that out. Now, a lot of people say, well, why is this necessary? Why not just plug into the market center? I think there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is your culture is going to be defined within your market center. And so you may want to curate how the people are going to be learning within your organization, what they're going to be learning, and then how you're going to be coaching and training them to be highly successful. As you come through that, you're going to be doing 411s for accountability and coaching, and then you're going to deep dive into that on a weekly basis with your team as well. If you haven't seen a 411, this is what it looks like. So we want to make sure that we're doing that efficiently every single week. And then it avoids you to build leaders and avoid skip level leadership. Now, that's a tricky one, right? Avoiding skip level leadership. But I think the key here is really about building leaders within your organization. And that's a true sign of leadership is, are you helping build other leaders within your world and within your organization? And then that last one, building out your world. So build it, don't run it. Event time is not clock time. Be the underdog, lead with revenue. Number 4 is so important. Expansion is not a cheap thing to go down the path of. So if you are going to go down, know that it does cost quite a bit to do this, as you've got a exponential growth within your expenses. And once you stop selling, your cost of sale is going to increase with that as well. So number 5 becomes really critical, having that shift mindset at all times. If you remember back to family reunion, for those of you that have been going for years, I think it was 2016's family reunion that Gary started talking about a shift. And he kept saying, I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't know when it's going to show up, but everyone needs to start thinking about a shift. Well, he wasn't wrong in that 2017, we saw a shift up and a shift down in the tail end of 17. So that happened. And then it happened again in 2020. There was a mini shift there, down and up. And then 2021, 22, we saw a shift up. And at the tail end of 22, we saw a shift back down. So it does happen. So having that shift mindset at all times within your business will make it so that you can ride those waves without being affected too often. And then lastly, make compensation a competitive weapon within your world. Now, your plans going forward as you're looking at expansion, simple. Where will I expand? Who will I expand with? What will my lead generation method for expansion be? And how will I track and measure my success as I go through this? So again, you want to start with those 4 questions. Where am I going to go next? You might already have a location in mind. You might have somewhere that you want to think of. I was meeting with a team a couple of weeks ago that are expanding, and they're going from Ottawa all the way down to Florida. I thought that was kind of crazy. It's totally out of the model, what Gary recommends, but there was a need in where someone in their organization already within the team was planning on moving to Florida, didn't want to leave the team, didn't want to leave their business behind, and thought, well, what if I could still do it with you and we could continue to grow this world? So that was an interesting where. This person's going to have an expansion team in Florida. They're also going to have one in Ottawa. And that's a really great way to start for them because the talent showed up and wanted to do it. So they had the who before they had the where, but the who created the where. And sometimes that'll happen as well, where you'll just naturally expand somewhere because a who in your world that's extremely talented wants to go somewhere else. Maybe it's a relocation. Maybe there's a family reason. Who knows what that is? And you're going to go there with them because they're a great fit in your organization culturally and they work really hard. But most importantly, you want to look at what's going to be your lead generation method. Again, remember, this is replicatable and duplicatable business. So you're going to take what's working at your local area and does it work in the area you want to go into? Exploring that with that Florida team, that was something that they were realizing that their current method of how they generated leads was going to have to be 100% completely different when they got to Florida. So they're working on rebuilding their lead generation methods right now. And then lastly, how are you going to track your success? Is it units? Is it GCI? Is it growth in agents? What are the things that you're going to be looking at to know that what you're doing is successful and that you have the ability to continue to move forward and to expand? Now, that is all of it. Like I said, I kept this really, really short, and I wanted to offer a lot of time in case there were any questions or anything that you wanted to know about it. As I mentioned when we started this, expansion is one of the greatest tools that Gary gave us for the mega agent, where you're able to grow your world over and over and over again, build talent within yourself, build talent within your organization, and really take on building a business at an exponential level. So it does increase your profitability and it does increase your ability to grow as a leader, as well as to grow people within your world. I'm going to shut up here, guys. It's open for questions. Feel free to put your hand up or drop it in the chat box. And let's get some back and forth going on this, on anything that you want to know about expansion. Hey, Jonas, I see your hand up. I know Melody's here. Mel, can you unmute Jonas for us so he can speak? Hey, Jonas, you can unmute yourself and you can ask your question now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Andre, it's fantastic. This is what I was looking for, honestly. You know that. Are we going to get a copy of this?
Yeah, I'm happy to share with anyone. Like I mentioned, Jonas, as you're thinking about building out your world and your businesses, if you get a chance, reach out to me, let me know. I will let you know when Cody is hosting the full day session or when we get it here. But yeah, happy to share and give you a copy of this as you build out your world as well.
Okay, thank you, Andre.
My pleasure. All right, any other questions?
Andre,
Yeah.
I think for people who want to learn more, you mentioned that there's a full day course or a day and a half course. Okay, and will we have the registration link and all of that available soon, do you think? Just so we can pass that on?
Yeah, so I'm working with the region right now to have this in Canada. A lot of times it's in the US. We haven't had ESO done live in Canada since 2019. So we're working on putting that plan together to get it back here. It does happen as a webinar. It's about a 3-hour webinar that Cody Gibson does do. He's the head of expansion for Keller Williams. And he's part of the KW Expansion Network as well. So I will let you know the dates, Mel, so you can get that one out to everybody that's on the call when Cody's going to be doing his next one. I think he just did one last week, but I'll get the new dates on when he'll be doing it again. He does it every month and he does it constantly. So I'll get that one out to everyone as well.
Amazing. And then just another question. So agents, leaderships that are interested in expansion, what would next steps look like? So where can they get more information in addition to the information we'll be sending out? Are there any contacts or other agents that you would recommend they reach out to? Is there more training resources or reading material?
Yeah, so if you go on to KW Connect and you look up KWEN, KWEN, there's a whole set of resources there. What I found with expansion as I went through it was what was really cool, and this has always been the KW story, is I just started reaching out to other people that were expanding. So whenever I took the course, I always met people that were doing it or thinking about doing it or already in process, and I would just start grabbing their contact information. Same thing with my coach. I would just ask my coach, hey, who do you know that's doing it all across North America? And he would always provide me names. The people that are in expansion, it mentioned collaboration earlier in the course where, a lot of us want that success together because expansion organizations actually grow together as we start to target other locations. So it really changes the way people think and the competitive nature of it, where they're willing to share the plans, give you everything, help you with everything. But KWIN would be step one. Cody Gibson would be step one. He's happy to chat with anyone. If anyone wants Cody's info, I can send it to you. And then from there, there's a lot of stuff on KW Connect on expansion, but more importantly, just connecting with the other expansion leaders out there and doing one-on-one masterminds. That was the most helpful thing for me as I went through it.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Claire, I know you're here as well. I know you were asking some stuff about expansion. Is there anything I can answer for you? Mel, I don't know. I think Claire's on the other side. Oh, there she is.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Thanks so much for putting this on. This is great. We've got like our whole team here, the 4 of us for Wellington Dufferin Real Estate Partners. And I think you've answered a lot of our questions, and it's just fantastic for you to be able to share this information. So if you're going to do a 3-hour, we're going to offer this with Cody, that would be amazing because we need more detail.
Well, and it's so cool. Like I said, Gary said it on stage in 2016 and in 2017. He said, expansion is going to be the greatest gift that I've given to the real estate industry that most people won't take advantage of. And I don't know if it's fear, I don't know if it's systems, I'm not sure what it is, but even for me getting into expansion, it came out of a conversation with another business owner who was stepping into something else. So he was looking at a different role within Keller Williams. and he just really couldn't be efficient and run his team. And that's how expansion started for me, was he was looking for somebody to partner with to help him run his business. And so expansion can happen in so many different ways. But if you take care of those foundational pieces, whether you ever expand or not, your team and your business is going to be so much stronger just by focusing on building an incredibly great administrative hub and having a lead generation plan. Just doing those two things are going to help your team grow exponentially year after year. So yes, I'll keep you posted, Claire, on when we do it. And it's something that I'm just truly passionate about within our business, because it's allowed us to grow not just our world, but the world of the people inside of our world, where there's really no opportunity that we can't help with now. I see Jeff here as well. Jeff, you got some questions?
Today, no, just listening.
Today, just listening. Cool. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, I mean, everyone has my contact information. I'm going to put it in the chat box as well. If you want to talk more on this one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat more about it. I would love to see more expansionists out there, whether building it or joining expansion organizations. There's so much opportunity once you do that. So if anyone wants to know more about how we did it and where we're going, I just dropped my email in there. Feel free to email me. I'd be happy to set a time aside. Oh, Jeff, your hand's up again.
Yeah, well, I'd like to know where the presentation deck is for this. I would definitely like to get a copy of this video again, because I'll be honest, like I'm split between you and getting ready for a CMA and just making sure that I've got that done. So as we always are. So I'd like to make sure that I can review this video, but I'd also like the slide deck so I can go through point by point. As I step back into the MREA, I want to make sure that I'm looking at this as a future vision, probably a year or two out. But like you're saying, I'm just working on rebuilding the foundational pieces of the systems, making sure they're right, and the lead gen platforms, make sure they're right before I step into this year or next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, what I'll do is I'll also send you the checklist that we have as well. So there was a pre-checklist before we ever got into expansion. And so every time I took it, I would fill out this checklist and go, where am I with the operations team? Where am I with lead generation? What are the things I need to fix? And so the local team got even better as we went through it, because we were creating the systems that were replicatable. So even just where you are right now and where you want to go, and the next steps, like you're mentioning 2-3 years away, you're going to be doing so much leverage for yourself within your own business that there's going to be wins all the way through. So Mel's got a list of everybody that's on. We will get this slide deck out to you, as well as that checklist as well, and the recording. Mel just dropped it in the chat there, so that's awesome. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to see about getting Cody up, and then we're going to see about doing the full version of this probably in the summer. We can get it done in a full day. It's very stressful to do it in a full day, which is why we usually look at a day and a half, but we're still working that part out with the region right now. And then as you go through it, just who are those empire builders going to be for you, right? Who's that director of operation, that director of expansion that's going to help you grow, be a partner with you through this? You cannot do this by yourself, so make sure that you have the people there as well. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, guys, my email's in there if there's anything else, but Mel will send this out to everybody, and then just keep an eye out for the next 2 courses. Thank you all for being here. As I mentioned, this is something I'm passionate about, so anyone that wants to learn more, feel free to reach out to us. I do see our expansion director on the call as well, so you can also reach out to Kristen. She's got a great wealth of information on this as well, on how we're growing, where we're going next. And so either one of us, we'd be happy to chat with you and to help you go down this path as well on your own. So have a great day. I'll give you back a bit of time here. We didn't want to take too much time, and anyone that has any questions, feel free to reach out.